In the summer of 1981, the air in Mexico City didn't just hang thick with smog and exhaust, it hummed with secrets. The city was a crossroads, a neutral capital in a hemisphere tearing itself apart. To the south, civil wars raged in El Salvador and Guatemala. To the north, the United States poured money, weapons, and ideology into the chaos, all while publicly insisting it was merely supporting democracy. And right in the middle of it all, between the grandeur of the Zocalo and the neon buzz of Reforma, stood Benito Juárez International Airport, a concrete labyrinth where truth and lies passed through the same metal detectors, often in the same suitcase. It was here, on Terminal 1's baggage inspection line, that Rita Alvarez stood every day from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., her eyes scanning conveyor belts like a hawk over a desert. She wasn't trained in espionage. She hadn't read Sun Tzu or studied Cold War doctrine. But Rita had something far more dangerous in the world of secrets. An unbreakable memory for details no one else thought mattered. Rita was 29 years old, with dark eyes that missed nothing and hands that moved with quiet precision. She wore her hair in a tight bun, not for style, but because loose strands got caught in the scanner belts. Her uniform, a faded blue polyester blouse and matching skirt, was always immaculate, pressed the night before, even though no one would notice. She lived in a small apartment in Iztapalapa with her mother, who hadn't left the house since her diabetes took her legs. The job at the airport paid barely enough, but it came with health insurance, and dignity. Rita's father, a high school history teacher, had been disappeared in 1971 during the Halconazo student massacre. He'd left behind only two things, a dog-eared copy of Don Quixote and a single piece of advice. Mija, the world lies with its mouth. But it tells the truth with its hands, its pockets, its luggage. Watch the small things. They never lie. So Rita watched. Not people. Not faces. But things, the frayed strap on a suitcase, the smudge of ink on a boarding pass, the way a man's fingers trembled when he handed over his passport. And especially, the baggage tags. At first, it was just habit. A quirk. A way to pass the hours between flights. She'd note the airline logo, the flight number, the destination code. She knew that Mex meant Mexico City, SAL meant San Salvador, MGA meant Managua. She could tell by the color of the tag whether it was economy, business, or diplomatic, though diplomatic tags were rare, reserved for embassy staff and foreign dignitaries. But in March 1981, something changed. A man arrived on American Airlines Flight 204 from Washington, D.C. He wore a gray suit that looked expensive but ill-fitting, as if borrowed. His shoes were polished, but his hands were rough, calloused, like a mechanic's. His suitcase was a standard-issue, Samsonite, black, with silver corners. And his baggage tag, bright red with bold white letters, read, Diplomatico. Rita checked the Daily Manifest. No one by his name was listed as diplomatic personnel. She mentioned it to her supervisor, a weary man named Esteban. He waved her off. Probably a new attaché. Don't make trouble, Rita. We're not the FBI. She let it go. But she didn't forget. 10 days later, he returned. Same flight. Same suit. Same Samsonite. Same red tag. This time, Rita didn't report it. Instead, she pulled out a small notebook, meant for grocery lists, and wrote. March 18, 1981. AA 204. Male, 50s, gray hair at temples. Suit, navy, slight wrinkle at elbow. Suitcase, black Samsonite, scratch on left handle. Tag, Diplomatico. Not on manifest. She didn't know why she wrote it. Maybe it was her father's voice. Maybe it was the way the man avoided eye contact, as if afraid the scanners could read his thoughts. Or maybe it was the faint smell of gun oil that clung to his suitcase, something she recognized from her uncle, a retired police officer. Over the next 6 weeks, she saw him 4 more times. Then, in May, a different man, but same pattern. Then a woman in a beige trench coat. Then 2 men traveling together, both with diplomatic tags, neither on any official list. A pattern was forming. Not random. Not bureaucratic error. Intentional. Coordinated. Hidden in plain sight. By June, Rita had filled 3 notebooks. She'd begun arriving an hour early, just to watch the arrival boards. She memorized flight schedules from Miami, Houston, and Washington. She noticed that these diplomats always flew on Tuesdays and Thursdays, always in the late afternoon, always on commercial airlines, not government charters. They never checked in online. Always at the counter. They never carried carry-ons. Only 1 checked bag each. And they always used the VIP exit, bypassing customs entirely. One afternoon, a young man, barely older than her brother, stumbled through the gate. He was sweating, fumbling with his passport. In his haste, he handed the wrong baggage claim ticket to the handler. The handler, distracted, slapped the diplomatic tag onto a regular tourist's suitcase, and the tourist's tag onto the diplomat's bag. Rita, doing routine verification, opened the diplomatic bag. Inside, 5 stacks of $100 bills, wrapped in rubber bands. A disassembled Colt .45 pistol, oiled and clean. A folded map of El Salvador, marked with red circles around military bases and refugee camps. And a small envelope labeled, for Comandante Ruiz, Contra HQ. Her blood turned to ice. She snapped the suitcase shut, heart hammering against her ribs. She said nothing. She corrected the tags herself, pretending it was her mistake. But as the young man walked away, she whispered under her breath. "My brother was in San Salvador last year. Did you kill him?" That night, Rita didn't sleep. She paced her tiny apartment, replaying the image of the map, the gun, the money. Her brother, Luis, had been a university student, passionate about land reform. He'd gone to El Salvador in early 1981 to document human rights abuses. He'd sent 1 postcard, "The truth is here, Hermana. I'll be back soon." Then, silence. No calls. No letters. Just a rumor, months later, disappeared. Probably dead. Now, holding this evidence in her mind, she faced a choice. Report it, and risk being labeled a communist, a traitor, or worse, ignored. Stay silent, and let more Luises vanish. But there was a third path. One her father would have approved of. Observe. Record. Reveal, but never reveal yourself. From that day on, Rita became a ghost in her own life. She bought cheap notebooks from the Mercado. She developed a code. Red dot equals suspected CIA courier. Blue line equals possible arms shipment. Circle around flight number equals connection to Central America. She noted everything. The brand of cigarettes a man smoked, American Spirit equals likely U.S. intelligence. The type of watch, Timex equals field agent, Rolex equals handler. Even the smell of their luggage, gunpowder, chemicals, or the sterile scent of new money. She learned that diplomatic tags from different countries had subtle differences. U.S. tags used Helvetica font. Soviet tags used Cyrillic block letters. Mexican diplomatic tags had a small eagle watermark. The Americans? Their tags were perfect. Too perfect. Like they'd been printed in Langley. Then came the woman in the floral dress. July 12, 1981. Flight from Miami. She looked like a schoolteacher, glasses, cardigan, sensible shoes. But her hands were steady. Her eyes scanned the terminal like she owned it. She had 2 bags. Both tagged Diplomatico. Rita watched as the woman handed one bag to a man in a Panama hat near Gate B7. The exchange lasted 3 seconds. No words. Just a nod. Rita followed the man with her eyes until he vanished into the parking garage. 3 days later, his body was found in a ditch outside Querétaro. Shot twice in the chest. No ID. But the newspaper photo showed the same Panama hat. That night, Rita sat at her kitchen table and wrote a letter. Not to the police. Not to the U.S. Embassy. But to La Jornada, the only newspaper in Mexico that dared criticize American intervention. She wrote only facts. Since March 1981, at least 14 individuals with unauthorized diplomatic baggage tags have transited through Mex on flights from U.S. cities. Destinations, SAL, MGA, GUA. Purpose unknown. Recommend investigation. She signed it, a worker who sees. And dropped it in a mailbox 10 blocks from her home. The article appeared on October 3, 1081. Front page of the international section. Headline, Puente Secreto de la CIA en Mexico. It cited anonymous sources, flight records, and eyewitness accounts from airport personnel. The U.S. State Department called it baseless speculation. The Mexican government said it was looking into the matter. But inside CIA headquarters in Langley, panic spread. How did they know? Who talked? Was there a mole in Miami station? In the courier pool? They launched an internal investigation. Reviewed security footage. Interviewed every employee at Benito Juárez with access to baggage manifests. But they never found Rita. Because she never spoke to anyone. She just kept scanning bags. And writing in her notebooks. By January 1982, the flight stopped. The gray-suited men vanished. The diplomatic tags disappeared from the belts. Rita felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. Had she helped? Or just delayed the inevitable? She continued working. Cared for her mother. Planted geraniums on her balcony. But every time a flight from Miami landed, her shoulders tensed. Then, in 1983, a knock on her door. A man in a priest's collar handed her a sealed envelope. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Your brother Luis was taken by an army death squad in May 1981. He was not killed by the people you watched. But your courage gave others a chance to survive. Thank you. She cried for the first time in years. Then she locked the note in her father's old Don Quixote. She never told anyone. But she kept the notebooks. Years later, in 1998, after the CIA declassified thousands of Cold War documents, a file surfaced. Operation Phoenix Bridge, Final Assessment. It confirmed everything. Mexico City was used as a transit hub for Contra resupply from 1980 to 1981. Over $4.2 million and 300+ weapons passed through Mex. The leak to La Jornada caused temporary operational compromise. The source was assessed as likely low-level ground staff with exceptional observational skills. No evidence of foreign affiliation. Neutralized by route change. No further action required. No name. No photo. Just a cold acknowledgement that an ordinary woman had seen too much. Rita retired in 2010. She lives quietly in Coyoacán now, with her daughter and 2 cats named Helena and Verdad. She still notices things, the license plate of the delivery van, the brand of tea her neighbor buys, the way strangers hold their phones. In 2015, a historian tracked her down for an oral history project. He asked if she ever regretted what she did. She stirred her coffee slowly, then said, "I didn't do anything heroic. I just refused to look away. In a world that teaches you to see only what's convenient. Sometimes the most radical act is to pay attention." The story of Rita Alvarez is not about spies or sabotage. It's about the power of ordinary perception. She had no training. No weapon. No network. But she had eyes that refused to lie, and a conscience that wouldn't let her stay silent. In an age of satellites and AI surveillance, we forget. The most effective intelligence isn't gathered by machines. It's gathered by humans who care enough to notice. Rita didn't stop the war in Central America. But she made it harder to hide. And sometimes, that's enough. Today, as drones circle above conflict zones and algorithms track our every click, the lesson of Rita Alvarez feels more urgent than ever. Secrets don't hide in shadows anymore. They hide in plain sight, in shipping manifests, in metadata, in the mundane details we've trained ourselves to ignore. And the people who uncover them aren't always agents with earpieces. Sometimes, they're women scanning baggage tags. Teachers grading papers. Librarians shelving books. Farmers watching border patrols. They don't seek glory. They simply refuse to unsee what's in front of them. So the next time you pass through an airport, a train station, a government office, ask yourself, what am I not noticing? And more importantly, who is counting on me to see?